Today, you are going to learn how we have some of the same exact things happening in our economy that happened to our economy that led to the Great Depression in 1929. Now, I am not saying that we are 100% going to have another Great Depression, but we would be fools to ignore these major warning signs that another Great Depression may be on its way. And something that really concerns me and should concern you also is that the Great Depression paved the way for fascism in Europe. Basically, when the Great Depression happened, people demanded change, and those people chose fascism. So if we have another Great Depression, what kind of screwed up things will people choose then that would affect our freedoms? So here's the first parallel that I want to point out about the Great Depression and today's economy, and that is a rising national debt. During the Great Depression era, we had high national debt because the government was doing all of these programs to try to bring relief to the citizens. And today our government does have high national debt. And the bad thing about our high national debt that we have now is that our consumer confidence is low. And if high national debt and low consumer confidence doesn't cause you concern, then you have your head in the sand. And the second parallel that I want to point out is that in the Great Depression, we had bank failures, which caused people to panic, rush to the banks to get their money out. And in today's economy, we have seen, at the point of this video, at least 3 major bank failures: Silicon Valley Bank, First Republic Bank, and Signature Bank. Now, you may be thinking, well, those bank failures did not affect me, but we have to remember bank failures have ripple effects. These banks are all tied in together, so when one bank closes, that causes another one to really struggle. And I'll tell you this, it will probably only take a handful more of major bank failures to really put people and investors and people like that into panic mode. And we also have to remember is that every time a bank fails, then that is one less bank that gives out loans for people to start businesses or buy houses or buy a car. So every time a bank fails, that's just one less thing that helps keep our economy chugging along. Now let's talk about the next parallel, which is called speculation by investors. And let me explain really quick what speculation by investors is really fast. Speculation by investors is when investors believe that something will be worth more down the road than what it ends up actually being. For example, if a bunch of investors think that a certain company will be worth millions of dollars down the road, then they will pay more for a share of that company than what that company would be ends up being actually worth. So in the end, those investors end up losing a ton of money over this. Now, speculation by investors was, from my understanding, was really rampant in the 1920s, called the Roaring Twenties, which preceded the Great Depression because the economy was so good, people thought that that great economy would never end, and so they were making all these investments that ended up going boom on them, which helped lead to the Great Depression. And if you compare that to today's economy, you can see where just a few months ago, where homes that were normally worth, let's say, $100,000 were selling for $200,000. So you had all these investors buying homes and people buying homes that paying $200,000 for a $100,000 house, and then the Fed started raising interest rates, and then now the cost of these homes or the value of these homes are already starting to go down. So I really believe that in a few years from now, you're going to have people that owe $200,000 on a house that's only worth, let's say, $100,000. And for all these investors that paid that kind of money for these homes, now these investors are going to be in the hole. Now let's talk about the next parallel, which is widespread business failures. During the Great Depression, obviously a lot of businesses were forced to close their doors because they failed. And then if you look at today's economy, we see a lot of businesses that have closed. Some of this was due to our government's reaction to COVID. Some of these businesses were forced to close their doors during the lockdown, and they never could recover once we reopened, and they were forced to lay everybody off or fire everybody and close their doors. And here's the next parallel I really want to point out, which is declining consumer confidence. We saw declining consumer confidence back in the Great Depression, and we're seeing it again today. The simple fact, folks, is that when money gets tight, people quit spending money as much. When people quit spending money as much, when they quit going to restaurants as much, when they quit going to movies as much, when they quit buying TVs and stuff like that, then those companies are forced to fire their workers. And then when those workers get fired and they quit having paychecks coming in, then those workers quit spending money as much. And then that causes even more workers in different industries to get fired and quit spending money, and you just get your huge ripple effect there. Now, I am no wizard on the economy. If I was, I'd be a millionaire. But I do know this: we have a high national debt. We have consumers losing confidence in the economy. And our currency is fiat instead of being backed by precious metals. And I also know that inflation is super high. And I think that if you're smart, you're putting food and other supplies back now while you can still at least halfway afford them, because there's just too high of a likelihood that hard times are coming. Now I want to hear from the community. What other similarities do you see in today's economy that we also had back in the Great Depression? Comment down below. And did you know that if you intentionally shoot a violent attacker purposely in his arm or his leg so that you wound him instead of killing him, did you know that more than likely he will still end up dying from his wounds, plus he will also probably kill you too? So to learn why that is, and to learn what most people don't know about that, then click on the video that should be appearing on the screen just about now to learn that powerful knowledge. Anyways, folks, this is enough internet for me today. I do need to get back to work. Folks, if you made it this far, hey, thank you very much for watching, and I pray that you have a good night.